House Republicans are trying to outdo House Democrats in terms of playing identity politics. That's literally their strategy for 2022. Let's put this up there on the screen from Axios. House Republicans' memo says that they will be offering candidates who are women, minorities, or veterans. This is just classic. It's just classic Washington think, right, Krystal? Which is they were like, well, in all 15 cases where a seat flipped, it was either a woman, a minority, or a House veteran. And therefore, those are the candidates that we need to invest in. Maybe it has something to do with the issues or the ideology, and it doesn't have anything to do or nearly as much to do with actual candidates. And the reason I know this is actually Nate Silver has this great analysis that he put together before the November election about how candidate quality in 2020 has actually never mattered less than before. Negative partisanship and the ability to drive like people up against the other side and just sheer rank partisanship of coming and pulling the lever for R or D next to your name drives almost everything. So it's not even statistically correct. It's just playing identity politics. And it just shows you how vacuous the campaign operations in D.C. are. They spent $140 million, the Congressional Leadership Fund. Back in 2020, they're probably going to spend $200 million whenever it comes all said and done on basically the same version of like whatever the House Dems are doing with like Stacey Abrams level identity politics playing. It's crazy.
So on the left, for the Democrats, the midterm strategy is being like, they're the party of QAnon.
Yeah, right.
And the Republican strategy is being like, we've got a woman.
Yes, yes.
It's a woman who's running. Don't worry about her policies. Don't think we don't really know what we stand for or have any. I mean, literally, I don't know what they stand for at
nothing.
this point.
They don't even care. That's the whole point.
And that's what's so brazen about it is that it's like completely surface level and like, great. I am all for having more diversity, more women in power. I am all for all of that. But it's so incredibly vacuous to not even pretend that it's about any sort of messaging, policy, platform, vision whatsoever. It's just purely like, oh, a woman won over here once, so I guess we should run women, and that's what we'll offer. It's pretty incredible.
No, it really is. It actually makes me sick because once again, which is that they're tokenizing people and not erasing really anything that they believe. For example, they're like, we need a star Navy SEAL. You know, it's like, okay, once again, if the Navy SEAL believes something great, obviously, God bless him for his service, but if he believes something great, then run him. And if he doesn't, then don't run him. I mean, it's just very simple. And even whenever they point to minorities, what are they really pointing to? Florida. Oh, really? Minority women ran in Florida and one running against people based on a Venezuela socialism message? Maybe that has something to do with the actual population of Latinos that live in their districts than it does to do with their actual identity, and that they're, to the extent that they line up, it's because they actually do represent what their constituents believe. If you try and copy and paste that somewhere else, it's going to fail. This is the most obvious thing in the world, and it's Kamala Harris level vacuousness whenever it comes to saying that on a national level, this is what we have to embrace. It's identity politics for the GOP. There's no other way of describing it, and it's ridiculous.
Do you think that with voters, it actually works a little bit better in the GOP than it does with Democrats? Because, look, we've seen this repeatedly with Democratic primary voters. They don't really give credit. They don't buy into just the identity politics. We saw this with, Kamala was supposed to be the candidate of minority voters and of women. That didn't pan out. Cory Booker, same thing, didn't really pan out. And in fact, it was the two white guys who got the most minority support. Do you think it has more actual draw with Republican voters just because they're more likely to have been called racist or sexist or be sensitive to that charge? So do you think there's an appeal to voting for a candidate so that they can say look, I'm not. I voted for this candidate.
There's very little evidence that it actually happens on the voting level, but in terms of raising money online, it's great, right? Like Diamond and Silk or Candace Owens or any of these other people, they raise a ton of money by playing identity politics online. But there is no evidence of that on the actual voter basis, right? And you can actually see this in primaries. Just because you're a veteran veteran, you're not statistically weighted either way in terms of doing better. Like I said, down in Florida, I don't think it has very much to do with them being a woman or a minority. I think they aligned pretty well with the new emerging Republican coalition in terms of who was coming out to vote. So yes, they're representative of their community. That's not going to work in North Carolina, right? And that's not going to work in Texas.
Well, and your original point is the right one, which, look, I would love to pretend that what people would actually care about and vote on is policy, but
it's not.
It's just like pure tribalism.
It is.
Especially at the congressional level, at the House level. You know, at a Senate or statewide level, especially like running for governor or something, you can kind of separate yourself a little bit because there's just enough money and enough focus on the race that maybe you can buck the national trends a bit. At the House level, it's almost just purely a tribal partisan game, which is really depressing because it just shows you that actually it doesn't really matter who you run or what they stand for. It's just purely about the national political wins, who's showing up to vote, and how the lines of that particular district are drawn.
That's it. All politics are national and basically rules it from that perspective. So they're trying to make something happen, which wouldn't even. And if you accept that we have to change things on the margins, this is the opposite of the way to do it, right? So there we go.
Next week on Rising, we got another great week planned. More incredible guests, including politics reporter, the Daily Beast, Hannah Trudeau. She's going to be talking about the minimum wage. Friend of the show, Ryan Grimm, he'll be here with his latest reporting. Great panelists like Jennifer Holdsworth-Karp and Rachel Bovard. Of course, you don't want to miss any of it.
That's right. Remember to hit the subscribe button. You don't miss any of our videos. Don't forget to like and share as well. And we will see you all later.
Have a good one, guys.